Good morning. Gosh, the music ends and everybody got quiet and new configuration for the candles. Actually, we.
You want it down here? Want it
Sure. Would that carry that on it?
I think so.
Okay. I'm all for women's lib here, so.
Like you, for not Ben?
Hand that to you. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Which way do we need to go back? Oh,
And see, then it's got to get adjusted just right. So there we go. Thank you.
it's not.
Oh, I love it.
It bothers us, but exactly, that's pretty good.
I'll go get my tape measure. If you
No,
want
we
me.
don't need that, eyeballs good.
It's kind of like at home. I'll go get my tape measure. No, she says. No, we got it. Anyway, joys and concerns. Today's potluck and board meeting, so don't forget that. Right after worship here in the sanctuary, we'll have our board meeting and the potluck will follow. Last week we went to see the movie Family Camp, took the bus trip, found out that the air conditioning needs charged. So it's always good to find those little things, but that was fun. So thanks for everybody who went and for Dennis who drove. It was one of those movies where you didn't have to worry about language. Oh, it was refreshing, right? Anyway, other joys or concerns this morning. I didn't write down what's coming up. Anything? Yes.
Would it be okay to suggest some reading?
Sure.
There's two books I didn't bring, this is over a time period. One was by J. Edgar Hoover, it was called The Masters of Deceit, where during his administration as the head of the FBI, he had did a lot of following on the communist movement in the United States. Senator McCarthy was on the right track, but they made a fool out of him and he overstepped some things, but it was what he was doing was real. It was happening. And if you read that book about how clever the communists are, Satan inspired, of course, because that's where they get their knowledge, and what's going on today in our universities, schools, stupid shootings, way to take away our Second Amendment, it's all part of this plan. Read the book, you'll see about it. Next one is Saul Alinsky. He wrote a book called Rules for Radicals. In that, it tells you how to start from a grassroots movement, get involved, take control of a situation, and once you get in control of that situation, you rule it. You don't let anybody protest no more. You shut down the rights, you shut down the privileges and the freedoms. Yeah, that's another thing what's going on in this nation. The other one is uncensored, uncanceled, is Phil Robertson. Cost him $10 million when he stood up for a traditional biblical marriage. When he spoke out against that's the way the thing should be had, that's the way marriage should be. It's a wonderful book. He talks about the cancel culture. It's been around a long time, but now they have more power. And you can see it where they take away books, take away your free. Read it, you can find out. The other one is by James Warner Wallace. I have two of his books. This one is Person of Interest. His wife was a Christian, he was not. He had seen so many things as an investigator for a police department that he didn't believe that there was a God. It couldn't be with all this evil and stuff going on. He come to find out because of that evil, he had to know there was a God. He went and proved by a person of interest, using his techniques, to find out that Jesus was a real person, he lived here, and he was the Son of God. He became a Christian. Another one was God's Crime Scene, where he used his techniques to solve cold cases and to prove that more of God's or Christ's enemies proved more that his existence. He had three categories. One, Christians who love Christ. people who are not Christians, like other religious systems that know that Christ existed and say, yeah, he's a good man. And those that hated Christ, and those that are today that hate Christ, trying to do away with our freedoms to worship. But anyway, he has another one which I'd like to get called Forensic Faith, where he uses techniques, because he used some of his crime scene investigations to solve that Jesus did exist, God exists, and that, well, read them, you'll find out. But you're welcome to check these out at any time. But he was on Dateline several times as someone who was so good at what he did to solve cold cases that he used that technique to prove.
What was his last name, just for?
Wallace, James Warner Wallace.
James Warner Wallace, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Are those, you could have those down on the table back there? Oh, is that what, okay. Yeah, cool, great. And you bet. One more book to suggest would be the Bible. I'll just throw that out there, okay?
God's still in control. Jesus said when he comes again, things are going to be pretty messed up.
Oh,
Well, hopefully the rapture takes place.
The stepping stones that we have out here, we haven't had any done for quite a while, but we have 5 in now getting done. And so, if you know, anybody that wants to fill out paperwork and purchase a stone, it's on again. I'd like to get them filled up and have it looking really nice out there. And then one day this week, and I'm not sure when, I'm going to need some muscle power to get some furniture and stuff for the Fire family. It's going to be more than what Bill should be lifting it yet, but he's really on the mend and he's doing great. Thanks for all your prayers for him.
yes, he is doing well.
Xavier Woods, April just said he had he slid into second last night and fractured his pelvis in Friday night
Who
in
did?
the baseball game. Xavier
Xavier
Woods, yeah.
did? Oh.
So that's very, very painful. I know. I've never had that, but I know that's a painful fracture. So please keep him in your prayers. Besides, he doesn't get to play baseball anymore, and that's pretty sad for him, I'm sure.
Sure, Doris.
I'd like to say thank you to everybody that called and sent cards, and especially to the ladies for the luncheon. Thank you very much.
Prayers are with you, Dolores. Goodness. Yes, Jerry Miller's, keep Jerry in your prayers. He had to go back to the hospital to have he had a couple of, thank you. Hernia is all I could think of. I knew that wasn't right. He had a couple of ulcers, and the one had to be repaired. It was a bleeding ulcer that was, anyway, so he's back in Pleasant Hill, and will hopefully get out this week. Yeah, been a long haul for him. So keep Myrtle in our prayers. She, her back is hurting her, and for her not to be in church or elders meeting or board meeting, it's pretty rare. But then again, she was doing too much during we have a new roof on the building, and they weren't keeping it quite clean enough. So Myrtle was out picking stuff up, which she shouldn't have been doing anyway. So Myrtle. So she's down in the back this morning, so just keep her in our prayers. And continue to keep Terry Hilker in our prayers. He's getting better, doing some physical therapy, and is actually going to be kind of working from Newton Healthcare, actually, from his bed. He works remotely with computers, so he's actually going to be starting to work next week. So that's good. He's in much better spirits, but keep him in our prayers. He's got a long ways to go to get his strength back and mobility and all of that. So other joys or concerns? If not, let's take a few moments, come to our God in prayer this morning as we join together in worship. Oh God, we thank you for this morning, this beautiful morning, to gather together and to lay at your feet, oh God, all of our joys and concerns and those things in our life that reflect what we are doing in our lives, both within the church, oh God, but in our everyday lives with family and community. Those things, oh God, that we uplift to you as a way of service, as a way of reaching out to others with your love, so that others can know who you are through us. And we thank you for the opportunity to be your disciples, oh God, to just be your word in the world, the word that lives through us, as given by Jesus Christ. We have an extreme task, oh God, in today's world of tragedy and despair, to bring the light of Christ to it. So help us, oh God, to be that light. Help us, oh God, to reflect your love where we live and work and play. Help us, oh God, just to be your disciples as you call us to be. Hear us now, O God, as we lift our voices to you this morning to pray those very special words that you taught us, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
God will make a way where there seems to be no way. He works in ways we cannot see. He will make a way for me. He will be my guide, hold me closely to his side. With love and strength for each new day, he will make a way. He will make a way. Oh, God will make a way where there seems to be no way. He works in ways we cannot see. He will make a way for me. He will be my guide, hold me closely to his side. With love and strength for each new day, he will make a way. He will make a way. By a roadway in the wilderness, he'll lead me. Rivers in the desert will I see. Heaven and earth will fade, but his word will still remain. And he will do something new today. Oh, God will make a way where there seems to be no way. He works in ways we cannot see. He will make a way for me. He will be my guide, hold me closely to his side. With and strength for each new day. He will make a way. He will make a way. With love and strength for each new day, He will make a way. He will make a way.
Viola, would you like a chair? Okay. Yep, no problem. Check it earlier. I'll just slide it over there and box it. How's that? Thank you. Yep.
Okay, guess we're all set now. If the Lord wills, instead you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we shall live and do this or that. Experts are always predicting the future. How many hurricanes will strike this year? What will happen to the stock market? And how the housing market will fare? Which teams will end up in the World Series? And which products will be hits on store shelves? It's risky business because no one has the ability to see even 5 minutes into the future. The writer of Ecclesiastes wrote, "A wise man's heart discerns both time and judgment, because for every matter there is a time and judgment. For he does not know what will happen, so he can tell him when it will occur." 8:5 and 7. Wisdom is the ability to do God's will in God's timing, and though we do not know exactly what the future holds, we can always say, if the Lord wills. Make your plans prayerfully and hold them loosely. And with every prayer request and every plan and project, give it to Him, saying, "Lord, if it be your will." Even Jesus prayed in God's will. In Mark, saying, "Father, if thou be willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done." And in Matthew 26:39 says, "O my Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will." In Mark 14:36, "Take this cup away from me. Nevertheless, not what I will, but what you will." Thank you.
There we go. That may not be better. I don't know, just saying. I did forget to mention one thing, and I don't normally ask for prayers for myself. That's pretty rare, but I got this crazy thing going on in my left leg, that foot and knee and hip and oh my gosh. Anyway, that's keeping me up at night the past for a long time. Anyway, so put me on your prayer list if you would, because I'm getting really tired of it, and And yes, I do have a doctor's appointment, blah, blah, blah. We're looking into that part, so. I'm absolutely confident that you do, and I appreciate it. Thank you. So, yes. But if it's like Jesus praying, God, if it's your, like, take this cup from me, God, if it's your will, I hope that's God's will that this gets changed. Oh, goodness. Anyway. Oh, okay. Yes. Oh, neuropathy, blah, blah, blah. We'll find out one of these days, hopefully. Without taking too many drugs, right? That's the part where I was pretty good. I was doing pretty good when I had the knee replacement surgery and was taking hydrocodone for my right knee. That kind of helped the left leg a little bit, but can't do that forever, right?
I got that neuropathy in my feet too. I know exactly what you're going through.
It's terrible, yeah.
It moves around in your joints, and it's horrible.
Yeah. Well, are you saying there's no hope?
I woke up one day and I couldn't walk the pain was so great in my right hip. So I went to the chiropractor and she said, well, I don't think I can help you, but take a tennis ball and rub it
Yeah, tried that.
on that spot.
Yeah.
You know what? It worked.
Yeah.
It went away.
Didn't help me. So I've tried that one. I got a list of stuff, but that's okay. I would just appreciate, all the help I can get at this point. So anyway, get off that subject. Gee whiz, I shouldn't even brought it up. I love the Sundays in which the lectionary text that I choose, and there's always 4 of them, and today's is the reading from Psalms 8, but I love the Sundays when that lectionary text that I choose can allow me to think about the entirety of God's creation and the universe, the vastness of God's creation, beyond our neighborhoods, beyond our countries, beyond our planets, and just to look into the skies. There's nothing better for me, and Bert knows this, is to, unfortunately in summertime the sun goes down pretty darn late. And I have a hard time, unlike Bill, who could spend probably most of the night looking up in the sky, but me, I try to go to bed early, earlier anyway. So I don't get to admire the night sky as much as I want in the summertime. But when I do, I become engrossed in just the vastness of outer space. I love those times at night to look out into the stars. And this started last week. Did any of you happen to get a glimpse of or hear about the 4-planet alignment with the moon? That at dawn there would be this. It's not all that uncommon, but it's I think it's been 40 years since that has happened. Did any of you hear about that? Nobody? Yeah, see, there was this unusual alignment right before dawn, in which you had Venus and Mars and Jupiter and Saturn kind of in this arc across the sky. And then the 23rd of this month, then the moon is supposedly kind of going to tuck in on that 4-planet alignment. And I love stuff like that. There was a lunar eclipse a few weeks ago. You remember that? Did any of you stay up to see that? Yeah, see, that's just cool. Cool to watch. Oh, just amazes me. As a matter of fact, I'm such a geek for that kind of stuff is that we've got a trip planned already for 2 years from now to travel over to southern Illinois to see, for the second time in our life, the total eclipse, the sun's total eclipse, that you can see it from southern Illinois. It's like several years ago, you could see it and we went down to northern Missouri, because I'd never actually seen one. It was just so cool. See everything get dark and the cows start mooing. That really is a thing. That's weird. They're like, what's going on? I mean, it was so cool that when I looked it up and saw that in 2024 in southern Illinois, it was going to happen there, that we've already planned the trip. I've got a paper on my office wall showing anyway, I'm a geek. Anyway.
Do you get astronomy magazine?
I do not.
You should.
Oh, I kind of, yeah, but I just took an astronomy class in college as an elective and loved it. Would have loved to have been an astronomer, but you know what? You got to know math. Wow. Nope, couldn't do that. But anyway, do any of you share that same amazement for the skies, for the vastness of the universe, to look up into the stars and just wonder about this creation, right? What amazes you the most about looking up into that night sky and seeing all of these stars? The vastness of it. Yep, just the sheer size of it, right? Kent, yeah.
The same thing, but how many years it took the light that you're seeing to reach your eye at that point?
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to comprehend.
It is. Just the fact that the light years it takes for that light to get to us, that as we're looking at something, out there, and just for the record, I have no idea what fomalhaut is. Any idea? I didn't look it up either. I should have, because I'm a geek about that. But anyway, so let's just say, we'll just use that example. Let's just say that is, thousands, millions of light years away, and we look up and we see that, and yet it can be gone already. It could have already exploded by the time, because that light, it's just amazing, right? Yep.
I always like to see a full moon.
Oh, yep. I always hate what comes with full moon on Wednesday afternoons and evenings, but because there's something to that craziness that comes about with full moons. But you're right, there's nothing more beautiful. Or to pull out a telescope and look at a full moon. Oh, it's gorgeous. Bill, yeah.
It has to make us wonder who put this together.
There we go. Yeah, that whole.
We know who put it together.
Yeah, exactly. Just the wonder of that. Yeah. Tom.
What is the speed of light and what is light years?
You're asking me that? Who has that answer? Again, we're using math. 186,000 miles per second. Okay. I've got another speed thing here later, but I didn't look that up. So thanks.
I was asked one time, when are you going to see the light?
Oh, for me, that's a few light years away. Yeah. Those kinds of things are the things that just amaze me, amaze us when we look out at the vastness of space. I wanted to share this with you. This is or does anybody know what that is? You're not going to know. It looks like a satellite. That is actually Voyager 1, and Voyager 1 was sent out. When I read that, I forgot that it's been out there a long time. That was sent out in 1977. 45 years ago, Voyager 1 was sent out into space, traveling at 38,000 miles per hour. 38,000 miles per hour. And if you remember, it's the Voyager 1 that they put the gold record on, that kind of gives an explanation of who we are or where we are as the earth. And I think there's some songs on there from Buddy Holly maybe I forget who some of the artists was that's on that. And it's amazing. It was 45 years ago that was sent out. 45 years ago. And according to NASA, it has become the first spacecraft to cross into interstellar space. And that's the place where our sun's solar wind stops affecting its surroundings. So the solar winds, the magnetism, the radiation, interstellar space it's at that point. It crossed into interstellar space. But also, according to NASA, and I found quite fascinating, that however, if we define our solar system as the sun and everything in it that primarily orbits the sun because of its gravity, right? Voyager will remain within the confines of the solar system until it emerges from the Oort cloud. The Oort cloud is where our icy comets, they theoretically think, come from. So it's kind of the end of our solar system, if you will. That by the time it gets there, it will take another 14 to 28,000 years at 38,000 miles per hour. Wow. That's just our universe. Wow. It just blows my mind. So to state the obvious, space is vast. It's just vast. And from a space perspective, our Earth, this planet that we live on, is pretty tiny. Insignificant maybe in the overall aspect of God's creation. But even this Earth is still awe-inspiring. We take it for granted most of the time, right? We just take it for granted. But when we think about the Earth and we hear about the Earth from the folks that have actually looked at the Earth from Earth orbit, all the way to the moon, we get a different perspective. And again, according to NASA, there was some astronauts that commented on what they saw when they left Earth orbit, or were in Earth orbit, or left Earth orbit to go to the moon. And there were some quotes I wanted to share with you that they stated. This is, of course, Neil Armstrong, and he stated that on looking back from the Earth, from the moon in July of 1969, he said, "I didn't feel like a giant. I felt very, very small looking at that Earth from so far away." Frank Borman, who was on Apollo 8, he says, "It makes us realize that we all do exist on one small globe. For from 230,000 miles away, it really is a small planet." And then, of course, Alan Shepard, Apollo 14, he said, "If somebody said before the flight, 'Are you going to get carried away looking at the Earth from the moon?' I would have said, 'No, no way.' But he said, 'But yet when I looked back at the Earth, standing on the moon,' he said, 'I cried.'" He just cried. Couldn't believe what he was seeing. James Irwin, Apollo 15, said, "As we got further and further away, the Earth, diminished in size, got smaller. and said, finally it shrank to the size of a marble, your thumbnail at arm's length, size of a marble, the most beautiful marble that you could ever imagine. That beautiful, warm, living object, it looked so fragile, so delicate, that if you touched it with a finger, it would crumble and fall apart. Seeing this has to change a person, right? And then lastly, I want to share with what Edgar Mitchell from Apollo 14 said. He said, very simply, he said, my view of our planet was a glimpse of divinity. My view of our planet was a glimpse of divinity. The universe, the heavens, the earth is a glimpse of divinity. What a great statement to make. What a great observation, I think. The psalmist in chapter 8 of the book of Psalms describes it this way. The psalmist writes, O Lord, our sovereign, how majestic is your name in all the earth. You have set your glory above the heavens. Out of the mouth of babes and infants you have founded a bulwark because of your foes to silence the enemy and the avenger. He writes, when I look at your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars that you have established, what are human beings that you are mindful of them? Mortals that you care for them. Yet you have made them a little lower than God and crowned them with glory and honor. You have given them dominion over the works of your hands. You have put all things under their feet, all sheep and oxen, and also the beasts of the field, birds of the air, and the fish of the sea, whatever passes along the paths of the sea. O Lord, our sovereign, how majestic is your name in all the earth. So when we look out at the heavens on a clear night, we see what? We see the works of God's, and I love this part, not hands, but the work of God's fingers. Lends some more preciseness, doesn't it? The works of God's fingers, as the psalmist puts it. And we see the entirety of God's creation. We don't just see Colfax, or we don't just see Iowa, or we just don't see the United States of America or North America, not even just the earth. But what we see is God's handiwork. A handiwork that the psalmist says God has entrusted to who? To us, to humankind. God has entrusted this all to us. I see this psalm as a reminder of the blessing God has bestowed upon us to care for the creation God formed with God's fingers, knit together from the beginning of creation. And as I look around me, and as I look around the world we live in, and as I look up into the night sky, I just pray. I just pray that we can live up to the confidence that God has put before us, all of humanity, to care for such a wondrous creation. That's my prayer today. And I pray that we can live up to God's trust in us. Think about that as we come around the table this morning to give thanks to God for the gift of everlasting life, the gift of Jesus Christ, the gift of God's love and trust as we stand and come around our tables this morning.
This version of the Lord's Supper will be taken from the book of Matthew. While they were eating, Jesus took a piece of bread, gave a prayer of thanks, broke it, and gave it to his disciples. "Take and eat it," he said. "This is my body." Then he took a cup, gave thanks to God, and gave it to them. "Drink it, all of you," he said. "This is my blood, which seals God's covenant. My blood poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. I tell you, I will never again drink this wine until the day I drink the new wine with you in my Father's kingdom."
Shall we pray? Hey, God, Master of creation, we are amazed every time we open our eyes at what you've created for us. And not just for us, but we also thank you for the trust you put in us, that we take care of what you've given to us. We are also amazed that you gave your Son for us. The undying love, the trust, the faith, that we would accept him and we would live our lives in the way you want us to. As we come around this table to remember his death on the cross and then his resurrection, please remind us of that vastness of the universe, but also the vastness of your love for us. In your name, amen.
And now may the grace and the peace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with you, guide and direct you now and forevermore.